definitely about to make a mess. Don't be a dummy like me. And I enjoy modifying and building stuff, so we're just going to modify this and see if we can make it work. Engine driven, belt driven. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the shop. I've been kind of distant off the YouTube for a little while. Been busy with work and just recouping some money from some projects throughout the last year that honestly haven't worked in the shop much. But today I got to work on the old daily tow pig, the Duramax, because I've got air ride on the rear and I've got a set of Viair electric compressors that are, gosh, probably 15 years old. I think I bought them in like 2009, 2010. They've been on the Scout. They've been on 4 or 5 other tow pigs that I've owned. They just keep getting swapped around when I get a new truck. They're on their last leg. One's already burned up. The other one is barely pumping air, so it's time for an upgrade. I've been wanting to do this for a while. I've just put it off. So we're ditching the electric compressors because I want more air. I want better air quality. I want better air flow, CFM, I guess. I'm not too worried about pressure because the electric ones were 200 PSI, but what we've got here is a York style AC compressor that we're converting over to pump air. I bought this kit from Little Shop Manufacturing, not sponsored by them by any means, but I really like the quality of the products, and I've been looking at this for a while. A couple years ago, they actually went from a fabricated bracket over to this billet. Really nice looking piece. Like, that is way too much bling for this truck, but nonetheless, it's really cool. So yeah, we're gonna put this sucker on there. And this video today is gonna kind of be a how-to to install this, and we're gonna learn together because I've never actually done it. I've got a pretty good idea though, shouldn't be too difficult. I have new bags that probably not gonna be putting on today, but my other bags are, I don't know how old they are. They were on the truck when I bought it 8 or 9 years ago, and they're just plumb wore out. We'll also be converting from fully manual up and down height adjustment to electric. I've got a Switch Pros kit that I want to install. I actually put in the switch panel in the truck several weeks ago, but I've been kind of waiting until all this shows up and we get the rest of this put in to connect all of that. But again, this video is mainly about putting this compressor in, and then I might make some videos showing swapping bags and finishing the Switch Pros and things like that. I don't know, those type of things I think get kind of boring. We're not really doing anything custom or cool. It's just swapping out the same bags for new bags. Wiring gets kind of boring on video, so I don't know. If you want to see that, let me know in the comments. But for now, today, we're just gonna put this in. I did just reread the instructions. Yes, I read the instructions. I feel like stuff like this by nice, reputable companies, it's worth reading the instructions to save you some trouble, at least pre-reading them before you start. Kind of have an idea. I mean, it's no sense in going back and forth 100 times just because you want to figure it out on your own. Like, if I buy a piece of furniture or something, I'm definitely throwing the instructions away and I'm just winging it. But stuff like this, it gets expensive if you do it the hard way, if you learn by the mistake. So we're gonna read the instructions. I did just reread them for like the 5th time and realized that I went to get a belt yesterday at O'Reilly's. They didn't have it because it's custom size or a unique size. So that's on order, it'll be here today. But I also missed a part of the instructions that we gotta drain out the refrigerant oil that comes pre-filled in this and put straight 30 weight, preferably before we put it in the truck because it's on a level surface, and in the truck it's gonna be angled back slightly, I think. So the instructions say to do it on the table. So that means I've got to run to O'Reilly's here in a little while and get my belt and some oil. But in the meantime, we can get started because we have to but we have to alter. It's gonna sit right here. The bracket goes right here next to the AC compressor. We have to move this factory battery cable junction box, and these cables need to go underneath the coolant hose. So rather than draining coolant and dealing with all that, we got to pop the fuse box cover off so we can take the positive cable off of that, and then we're going to relocate that all underneath. We can go and take the belt off and get the new billet bracket mounted and all that ready, and then quick hop to town to go to the store, and I'll get the oil and we'll be back at it. Okay, first thing we got to do is disconnect the batteries. I've already disconnected the second battery on the passenger side. According to the instructions, which are a nice little digital file on your phone, we've got to remove this bracket that this junction block is connected to. We got to take out this fender support because it's in the way to get this box off. If you're doing this at home, you probably won't have this little extra box to take off. This is a module for my lift pump. All right, I've got little tabs here. Maybe. Get my finger under there. Oh, I forgot about the tab over here. It's all about how you hold your tongue. So we're gonna disconnect that, which of course that's like a 7. And we got another one over here. Okay. Next thing is we're going to pull this bolt here. This is going to be relocated. This bracket will be relocated after we put the compressor in. These two you probably won't have because I've got an extra battery cable running to the back bumper for like auxiliary stuff on my trailer. I got to take it off because it's all got to be moved. Okay, quick recap so far. We pulled our battery cable off from our fuse box. You may or may not have 2, depending on your year of truck. You may not have 2 going to your fuse box, but I did. So pulled both of those, and we've rerouted them underneath the radiator hose. And then we're going to take this bracket and we're going to remount it somehow. I'm going to look at the instructions and see. All right, so I said this bracket was going to get moved. What I didn't realize is that they were supplying a new bracket that kind of locates this back down here. But I just realized that I did not get that bracket in the kit. Just went back, checked every box. No bracket, so that sucks. We're about to find out how good a company they are with their customer service. Honestly, you can't be mad. I mean, things happen. People make mistakes. I'm honestly not sure if I even want to use their bracket because it's going to mount it down here. And since I have other things kind of tied to that, I don't know if that's going to make it more complicated or what. I also can't really afford to wait to get a bracket because I kind of need my truck back. All right, we're going to get the belt off and the bracket mounted and kind of see where the compressor is going to look like in here, and then I'm going to see if I can mount this in a different spot so that we can keep on moving. And in the kit, you're going to get a new idler pulley and a bolt and a spacer. It's going to go right there. You'll need a 15. Nope, that's a 15 and a 16. 15 wrench. Nope, that's a 17. What the heck? Apparently I've been out of the shop too long and I suck at reading wrench sizes, but just by looking at the bolts. Okay, so I've reached out to him about getting this proper bracket, but it's Saturday. I'm not gonna get it for several days at the very least, so there's really no other way to mount this and make it work because the length of the cable is the length of the cable, right? So I'm impatient, I wanna get this done. And I enjoy modifying and building stuff, so we're just gonna modify this and see if we can make it work, because this isn't a show truck, it just needs to function, so that's what I'm gonna do. Again, if you're doing this in your driveway, they somehow forgot to send you the bracket too, then you should just call them and wait on it and install it like the instructions. But because this channel is a mix of how-tos and a mix of fabrication and custom things and modifications and doing just whatever I want to do, well, this is what I want to do. So here we go. Let that cool off. We're gonna round the corner there. We're gonna relief a little bit there because it's close to the injector wire. I wanna make sure that doesn't rub. It's not touching yet, but I don't want it to. We just snap our fingers and she's done. Well, there's our finished product. That's no longer a ground. That is now a grand bracket. We got plenty of room between all the wires. It's pretty solid. We ain't gonna worry about paint. We ain't got time for that. All the other factory paint on the other side of this truck's coming off because it's 420,000 miles, so we got plenty of room to wire that in. So we're gonna put our battery cables back together and then we will proceed with the install. Now, you don't wanna hook up your batteries completely until you're done. So we're gonna leave the grounds off, but I am gonna put all the power wires back on. Okay, we got the glow plug wire, power wire back on. We got the, actually that's not the glow plug, that's the grid heater power wire. We got our battery, we got this fuse box. So now you can put your cover back on, you can put your fender support back on, and then we're gonna move on to installing the compressor. I'm not gonna do any of that right now because again, I'm gonna be putting in the switch pros later and I need to access to all that. So I'm gonna leave it off for now. But if you're just doing the compressor install, you put all that back in right now and move on. All right, we're back from the store. We got our belt. We got some non-detergent 30 weight oil. We're gonna pull our drain plug out. We're gonna empty whatever factory oil come in here, however long that takes. I guess if we pull this plug, it'll get some air and that might be better. Oh yeah, much better. Seems pretty well drained to me. We'll put this one back in, tighten it up. Okay, now we can put fresh oil in here. It come with this little syringe thing. I don't know. It's not really, this is not mentioned in the instructions anywhere. I don't think I got a funnel that's that big, or not a funnel that's that big, but a funnel that's that small. So I guess we'll just use this. Looks like it's good to 2 ounces. So we got to fill this 6 times. I'm definitely about to make a mess. I did not think that through very well. Don't be a dummy like me and use the syringe like you're supposed to use the syringe. You don't fill it from there. You're supposed to suck it up from the... We all know that. Look at that, perfect fit in the bottle too. There's 6. 10. And that should be 12. All right, so if we did this right, they give you this little dipstick that's got these little notches on it. There's 12 of them. Each notch is a 1 ounce. Just gonna go in there until it touches the bottom. We got right about 12 ounces, so we're gonna call that good. Now these pumps are they're gonna use some oil, because the oil they got AC refrigerant oil because they're designed originally as AC compressors, so that oil kind of circulates through the entire system, and it's perfectly normal, perfectly acceptable. In this situation, we want to try to keep as much oil out of the air system as possible, but it's not going to hurt if the oil gets in there. But if as the oil goes out through the air tank and the bags and whatever else I'm trying to do, the biggest issue is we're losing it out of the pump, and it's basically an engine, a rod and piston on a crank, and they need oil. So as it pumps the oil out, it's not returning the oil like it would in a factory AC application. So we have to stay real mindful about our oil level and constantly check it. Their instructions say check it once a week based on your usage, and kind of keep track of how much oil you're going through, and that way you know, like, hey, I use 1 ounce a week or half an ounce a week, and then you can kind of set a reminder or something that, hey, you need to check the oil, you need to add oil as time allows. Little Shop Manufacturing makes forget what they call it, but they have redesigned one of these York pumps with, I think, a special machine piston that's got more oil in control, and supposedly the oil lasts a whole lot longer than the standard one, which is what this is. But based on this truck and the fact that they have to be mounted upright, it won't fit with the hood, so that's not an option here. Otherwise, I would have probably went with that. So we'll just put it in. We'll keep an eye on the oil usage. I don't think it'll be too bad for my application, because this is going to put out way more air than the 2 electric ones. And if I get all my leaks fixed, my bags are holding air, then I think the cycle time of this won't be too insane, which means the less this is pumping, the less often we got to add oil. So that's my hope anyway. We'll see what happens. All right, next step, we're going to put our clutch on. The clutch is actually heavier than the entire compressor filled with oil. Most of that is that pulley. Let's see. This is going to mount it like that. I don't think we want it over there. We'll mount it right here. So their instructions say to use blue Loctite or medium strength. I don't keep none of that on the shelf because I use the red for everything. So we'll take the gamble. Well, we may not have to take the gamble on using red because they got red already on the bolts. Cool. If you're not familiar, red Loctite is great when you want to hold things, but it can be very difficult to get bolts out in the future. A lot of times they take heat and sometimes the bolts will break. I will add that this is not, Little Shop did not build this compressor. It is just a sourced compressor for their kit. They make kits for all the Duramax years, all the V8 Duramax years. I don't think they make anything for the baby ones. They also make them for all of the Vortec LS, the truck stuff. I'm sure you could probably retrofit something into, like if you were using car accessories for a project or something like that. But I know they're specifically designed around the truck accessory spacing in the 4.8, 5.3, and the 6 liters. They also make them for the small block and the V6 Chevys. And then they make a universal bracket, kind of a kit that you can adapt to do anything on any kind of application if you so desire. I've been wanting to do this for years, but I don't know. It's quite a feat to design brackets on the serpentine system and get everything squared and true, and then a lot of headache finding a belt. And I think this kit is worth the money for them having done all that engineering and hard part. And this is by no means new. People have been doing this for decades. Just I don't know of anybody else that makes a kit for the Duramax. Definitely don't know anybody else that's making a kit with that nice machine aluminum bracket. Okay, we got that. And line up our keyway here. Okay, we should have a, where did that bolt go? There it is. Okay, I re-looked at the instructions and they was talking about putting some Loctite on this bolt. Again, I don't have blue, this is probably frowned upon, but we're gonna put just a little dab of red. Says to torque to 20 to 25 foot-pounds, which is not very much. Something like that. If you're doing this in your driveway, I highly suggest getting a torque wrench. And probably be best to put the belt on, put power to this, and then energize the clutch. It might kind of hold itself while you torque it down. Okay, now we can put our bracket on here. It's hard to see, but there's bolts. The nice thing about these York compressors is you can literally mount them in almost any orientation. I don't know if you can mount them upside down, but there's a couple sets of holes here. And the instructions say we're going to use the lower set of holes. Forgot to put the thread locker on these. Forgot to add that these holes are kind of slotted. You get a little bit of adjustment, but you want to start out with center, and then we'll kind of see how the belt goes, and we'll go from there. So they provide this other idler pulley to go here, and in the instructions they give you a chart, different belt sizes based on the belt you had. So the belt length that I had, for whatever reason, we don't need this upper tensioner or idler. We're just going to run the one we put on earlier. So not real sure why that is, but that's what the instructions say, so we're going to give it a shot. Come with new bolts to go through the AC compressor, and then it's got another set of bolts to go through the holes that were not used. If you have the ambulance package, or I know for sure on the ambulance package, but some of the other models, maybe it was an option, or if you've added a second alternator that typically mounts here, you do have to remove it. This kit will not work with the second alternator. There we got that. Now we got to see if we can make this belt fit. Okay. So yeah, this is the chart I was talking about where they have different belt sizes and part numbers that should work depending on your stock belt. And then we got two different diagrams, the primary, which is based off the original, and then the alternate. So according to this belt part number, we're going to use the alternate, which looks like it's the same. It's the factory on basically the passenger side of the engine, and then it changes a little bit on the driver's side. Okay, so that doesn't fit, but I know there's some varying alternator sizes on these trucks. So let's just see if we can make it fit utilizing the upper tensioner. Well, looks closer. This doesn't fit the... Oh, did I put the wrong tensioner on the bottom one? Probably so. 1202, 173. They're the same. All right, I'll be honest, that's a little frustrating. So they gave you a new bolt and washer, but the washer's not big enough to actually hold it on. So that's a design flaw in my opinion, or it may not be a design flaw. It might have just been as simple as the guy pulling the order. Okay, thankfully I had some washers laying around. Yeah, it looks to me like they needed to supply one large diameter and one small diameter washer. And somebody pulled two smaller ones. Not mad about it, but it is a little frustrating. Okay, is that gonna be enough? I don't think that's gonna be enough either. You really need a bigger breaker bar for this, but I think mine is at work because I can't find it. Okay. Well, we're kind of within the new and the wore out marks on the tensioner, so I really can't see the marks there, but right in between them, it seems a little, I don't know, not right to me. I guess there's enough pressure to turn that AC compressor. That is exactly what the diagram shows. So we're using this belt right here. Factory was 120 1/4, or the one I pulled off, which means the new one needs to be 138 5/8. There's the part number we got. It says use alternate diagram. This is the one we tried first without that. Couldn't quite get it on there. So it works there. I don't care, as long as it works. So that pretty much concludes the how to install a York compressor on a LBZ Duramax. Probably pretty similar to other years too. I guess there is one more thing to add. So you're gonna put your filter, your suction side inlet somewhere here. This one's gonna go down there and go to your air system. As you can see, it's kind of in the way of the hose. So what they tell you in the instructions is to loosen your clamps and back this hose off of this about 1/4 inch, and then off of that one about 1/4 inch. That'll move the whole thing away. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that next, and we'll pretty much be done here. Your air system is, they don't really provide they don't provide any details on that, because it's kind of like whatever you want to do. That all depends on your application, but at the end of this video, I'll show how I'm gonna route some of that. But for those of y'all that just want to know how to put one of these compressors in this little shop manufacturing kit on your Duramax, or maybe even another engine, that pretty much concludes that portion. And if you want to stick around for the rest, well, more than welcome to. I just want to be honest with the viewers and not waste your time if you don't want to sit and listen to the rest of it. Starting to think I should have routed that down though. Starting to think that might have been easier to do right off the bat. Radiator was easy because I just put a radiator in this truck a few months ago. These clamps will lock in themselves if you get them right. Bottom break free. Try not to make it just a gigantic mess. All right, well the camera died and I just went ahead and finished. So the instructions say to slip this back about a quarter, this about a quarter, and you kind of have to manipulate it. This one I did move back about a quarter. This one I had to move back like 3/8. We're still like the end of the tubes out here, so we got plenty of room. And also kind of had to twist it. It looks like it's kinking, but it's not. But in order to get clearance underneath this, right there, it's out of the way. This will be kind of curved up, I think. I think we're gonna be okay. It'll be something I need to keep an eye on for sure the first few weeks. Just make sure it's not rubbing anywhere. You are going to lose some coolant, so I would suggest probably draining some, or if you want to just make a mess like me, then by all means make a mess. So now we need to start building our lines here. There are no instructions for this, so I'm just kind of winging it. Again, they even specify that they can't really recommend what to do here because there's so many different applications for this type of compressor and everybody does a different thing. So yeah, I'm just going to kind of wing it. I have a plan in my head. Hopefully I have enough parts and fittings to make it happen. So this is where the kit runs out. They give you the fitting and they give you this stainless braided hose because there's a lot of heat come off of the compressor in the first couple foot. So that's what you get. You got to make the rest from here. This looks like a flare. They don't really give you any information aside from its 3/8 NPT. But it's not, it's tapered down in there, but it's not actually a flare. It's in fact a straight NPT fitting. So went down to the local hardware store, $80 later, we got a bunch of brass. You can probably find it cheaper, but it's convenient. So my plan is, you have to have a check valve because when the compressor shuts off, you don't want the air bleeding back through past the piston and out your breather. You won't hold tank pressure, you won't be able to do nothing with it. So you gotta have a check valve. I'm gonna put the check valve basically coming off of this hose. We'll go straight in the check valve. Actually, no, we're gonna do this. I bought this is just a cheap kind of oil catch drain. We're gonna put this hose into that. Then we're gonna go into the check valve, and then we're gonna go into this little junction block. And the junction block, it's gonna serve two purposes for me. Number one is we're gonna put our pressure switch solenoid so that when the pressure gets to 175, it cuts the compressor clutch off. Currently this is mounted back on the tank underneath the truck, but I go through like probably 8 or 9 of these a year because they get all the road grime coming off the tires and the road, and it destroys them. So I want to move this under the hood, and I think it'll make it better. It'll make it easier too because this just wires into the clutch. I don't have to run cables all the way from the back. And then I'm going to put a safety pressure switch just because another area for, you know, some safety in case something happens. There's one on the tank, but figure 2 can't hurt. Okay, so we're gonna put this into that, which means we're gonna need a nipple. I also want to run a 90 on there. I got to do some adapting because this has 1/2" threads going in, but like a lot of China knockoff crap, it's 1/2" threads, but then it goes to a 3/8 bore. It's got 3/8 coming out, so it actually works out to be straight 3/8. We just got to have one more fitting. By the time I go to the trouble of trying to make one of these, I could have bought 100 of them. And again, this isn't a show truck. If it was, I would not be doing it like this, but it's a work truck that gets used and abused every day. It would have been nice if this stainless hose had what's the word? It was swivel fittings, and then you could just put all this in the truck, but because it's not, we kind of have to assemble it here and then use the one and only swivel to install it. Not a problem, just, I don't know, not as clean as I typically like. And then again, I mean, this whole thing is not as clean as I would typically like. All right, now I just got to figure out where to mount this in the truck. I've got a couple ideas, but we're either gonna have to use some zip ties or build a custom bracket. That's the other tricky part about not having a swivel, is it doesn't really go where you want it to. I'd almost build a bracket off of here. Oh, you know what? I got ahead of myself, didn't I? Why didn't y'all say anything? What did I forget? I got too carried away and excited. Typical. We got to put the oil filter and the check valve. And really, the oil filter can go anywhere, but the check valve has to go before our pressure. If it went after the pressure switch, then what would happen is when the pressure switch read it was at pressure and it shut off the clutch, then it would instantly read that it was nothing because it's on the wrong side of the check valve. And it would just, I think, cycle on and off almost constantly. I had a thought of like right here, but it's gonna take one heck of a bracket. That's not gonna work. Can't mount that upside down. Not gonna be easy either. I'm kind of thinking like that's our only option. But there's no brackets here. The only mounting we got is here. Could just ditch the filter. That would make it a whole lot easier. But I don't know if that's the right thing to do. I don't know. We'll be back to it. Let me think about this for a minute. I'll fill y'all in on the plan. Plenty of room around all that. Now, can we make this fit in? I think that'll work. I think I can put a clamp right there. Got room around our hose. Put this there. And I think we're in business. All right, well, I think that's gonna do it for today. It's like 9 o'clock at night, I'm tired. This video is probably way too long as it is. And if you made it to this far, then I really appreciate it. Thanks for sticking around. Hope it wasn't too boring. But there's our finished engine-driven, belt-driven air compressor on the Duramax. All I got left to do is I got to run a line from here back to my tank. I got to finish putting in my switches and wire these together and all that, but I'm just going to do that off camera. Wiring, y'all don't want to watch that. Wiring is boring on the TV, but when I get all that working, I'll do a follow-up little short video and show the operation, and maybe after a couple weeks of me using it, give a little bit of feedback. But overall, I'm pretty happy with this kit. I think everything worked out pretty well. I mean, aside from me not having that little bracket and having to make that work. And the hose situation turned out a little different than the instructions, but that's about normal. I don't know, like, time will tell how well that will ride. It'll probably break that bracket at some point, but if and when that day comes, I'll address it and make it better. So, yep, that's gonna be it. Thanks for stopping by the shop. Y'all have a good day. We'll see you next time.